Hello guys, welcome to Talking News. Chasing a murderer. Please subscribe and like right now so you don't forget, guys. Also hit that notification bell that you see at the top there if you would like notifications. Also, don't forget I do have a Patreon page. I keep forgetting to mention it. I actually didn't this time, so go me. So right now, guys, we still have Tylee and JJ missing in this Lori Vallow case. And I know that I'm working on this timeline. I still have it pretty much complete. I just keep adding to it. It's just really hard because there's so much information to get those videos out there as quick as I would like to. Today, I'm making a video where we can kind of talk about some of the things that's been going on instead of just what brought us to this moment. And one of those subjects is going to be on Charles' life insurance policy. We're also going to talk about the website that's on Facebook that one of our family members here on this channel actually pointed me to that website. And it's pretty much supporting to release Lori, if you can believe that. But I think, and we'll talk about that in a minute, that it's, geared towards something else. But the most important thing about this case is the children. They're still missing. We have some hints of where they were seen last by nannies, by means of security footage at Yellowstone, and through a few family members. But we've not had any light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to searching for these two. A lot of people are still having hope that they're still alive and just being hidden somewhere in order to punish Kay Woodcock. But that doesn't make sense since Tylee's missing as well. Because really, if Lori wanted to punish the Woodcock, she would use JJ to do so. Not saying that Lori's not maybe possibly hiding them somewhere, because I think there is a chance, because she has a history of doing that type of thing. But the Woodcocks, I'm not certain. I think they're kind of like we are. They're in limbo as to whether they're okay or not. But they're also starting to speak and share more information on things like Charles Insurance. And let's go ahead and start talking about that right now. Don't forget, guys, throughout this video I'm going to be sharing some documents maybe you haven't seen before. If you're not familiar with this case, I'll give you a quick cap. Lori Vallow was married to a man named Charles Vallow. They were in the middle of a divorce, and he had a $1 million policy that made Lori at one time the beneficiary. He died under suspicious circumstances. His death is being investigated as we speak. We know that Lori Vallow was breaking into a lot of Charles' personal accounts, bank accounts. They had joint bank accounts, but he was changing his passwords and she was getting back into those accounts. And this is one of the concerns for Charles, and this is what we're going to be discussing, is where Charles tries to change his insurance last minute because he feels like his life is in danger. Here's a clip of Charles Vallow's sister, the beneficiary of the $1 million, talking on that subject.
Charles Vallow, Lori's former husband and Kay Woodcock's brother, left his life insurance money to Kay. After that, Kay says Lori stopped speaking with her.
If she wants money for JJ, oh, good God, I'll give her money. I'll give her whatever. If that's what she wants, fine. Just give us JJ.
Woodcock says that Charles told her that Lori didn't want to raise JJ.
It was too much for her.
And she had told him that.
Yes.
So according to Kay, she said Charles left that money to her because he ultimately believed that Kay would end up taking care of JJ anyways. But I think we all realize that Charles knew for a fact that he wasn't gonna be here long. And the problem with that is the way that he was reaching out to police and stuff, but they weren't listening to him. I find that to be the most concerning thing in this whole story. It's really hard to grip that things went the way that they did with this case. So let's talk about what Charles wrote in an email about his insurance. He reached out to his insurance company because he was concerned about passwords being changed and that sort of thing. So here you can see this is copied to his sister Kay. He's reaching out to the life policy ID on theft. So he's concerned with theft in this policy. So he says, I just tried to change my beneficiary on my life policy to my sister. I was notified by the insurance company that a password was placed on the account on 2/20, so that's February of this year. So this must be somebody typing it in, because we know clearly it's not this year. So here's the official document right here, so we'll look over that in a few minutes. They are doing an investigation and will lull the voice recording. I assure you it was Lori. I will update you with the findings. I've been locked out of my own life policy until further notice. If anything should happen to me before I get all this fixed, but my beneficiary is Ethel Kathleen Woodcock, my sister. She will use it to take care of JJ. I want nothing to do with Lori or any member of her family. Sincerely, Charles Vallow. So to me, this is absolutely concerning, and it's also a sign of premeditation. But investigators are going to have to be smart in order to use these documents as evidence. And I am sad to see how long this went on for Charles, but I think the problem is Lori, whenever Charles would start getting, panicky and start changing things, she would suck up to him, calm him down, get control of the passwords, and then continue her torture. There's no doubt in my mind that this man, Charles Vallow, loved Lori Vallow with everything he had. He did everything in his power to keep her in his life, but he would, it wouldn't take long and he would wake back up, and unfortunately it was just too late. I believe if police would have taken more notice to this, and they would have been able to get JJ into the safe arms of his father, perhaps maybe we might not have been here. Now, she does have a lot of balls. We seen that when she was in Hawaii dealing with investigators. She just continued as if she was God, that nothing affected her, and that she would, overcome anything they threw at her. I've had comments on my video saying, look, this crazy woman has been married 4 times. I can't even get married once. How is she able to do these things? Well, guys, I know it's hard for a lot of us to believe, but she is a master manipulator. And I think Chad Daybell seen that in her when he said, you are a gatherer. So, guys, we're going to speculate a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit and share how we feel about this case. Now, Charles knew, he knew something was going to happen. That's why he's doing what he's doing on this insurance policy, or he's using it in order to control her back, which, according to his sister, he's not that type of person. And we know that Charles Vallow tries multiple times to have Lori evaluated at a mental, let's just say institution. But I believe she is psychopath. This isn't positive. But I believe that, that's why she's able to manipulate, charm, and use that charisma to get what she wants. I think in time, once investigators collect all the information they need to collect, we'll find out that's exactly the case. She's a psychopath, or she's completely mental, because we've heard them talk about the zombies, and we'll talk a little bit on that in just shortly, actually. But first, I want to go back to this insurance and talk a little bit about how much trouble Charles went through in order to make sure that Kay was the beneficiary of this insurance policy. So this is courtesy of Fox News, as you can see. He says, my name is Charles Vallow. I bought this life insurance policy a few years ago, and I have a payment drafted from my account ending in so-and-so, and I spoke with so-and-so, and he could not authenticate the password that was listed in my account. He said one was placed on 2/20 of 2019, and he puts in caps, "It was not me." I request an investigation, as I believe my soon-to-be ex-wife, who fraudulently placed the password on the account. I want to change the beneficiary to my sister, Kay Woodcock. I have an order of protection against Lori Vallow, as she physically threatened my life in the past 30 days. Please get back to me at my new number. And he shows that, and then he shows his old number, and then his new address. So he's trying his best to document everywhere he can, so that if something happens to him, Lori is not able to get away with it. So I believe that you will see, sometime soon, if investigators are good enough to collect the evidence they need, more charges to come. And they're given hints that they do have evidence that is pointing to foul play with Tammy Daybell as well. So I believe that you will see more charges to come for Chad Daybell along with Lori Daybell. The problem is this: for Chad Daybell, if he doesn't start speaking before they do, he's going to be behind bars a really long time. So right now, his chance to actually come and make a plea deal, if he waits too long, then he's shit out of luck, right? Excuse my language, guys, but that's what it is. I mean, he's going to be up, creek without a paddle. Because we're not certain if Chad is the type of person that was able to administer poisons or to hurt other people. But we do have this belief that Lori Vallow can. So we see it happening all around her. But what's really concerning is the fact that Chad Daybell is mentioned by friends and family as saying that kids were zombies, which their only option to not be zombies is through death. So again, we have Charles Vallow, and I feel so bad for him. Gosh, I mean, who would have ever thought that something could happen to you? You can imagine that when he went to that house that morning to pick up JJ, take him to school, it's in the morning, the kids are there, people are there, it's daylight. He couldn't have guessed, even with a hint, that his life would end there that day. Most likely, Charles felt very safe because mainly the children are there. I mean, who would do such things in front of children? Unfortunately for Charles and the children, it happened. And what is still kind of unclear is whether or not the children seen that happen. We do hear mentions of why zombies take over a person's body, and one of those reasons is they've seen something traumatic. So through Preparing the People, they have many podcasts that actually talk about some of these things that these people practice and follow. One of those people is Jason Mow. He's one of the leaders for these people. I'm not saying that he had anything to do with this, but the fact that he's been so close to Lori, Chad, and Melanie Gibb, it makes you wonder, where did they get their ideas from Jason Mow? Because Jason Mow don't have a really clean background. He seems like, when I did investigate him a little bit, that he's the type of person that wants to lead everybody into greatness. But it's hard not to look at them, him or Melanie, when really they could have just been the pawns for Lori and Chad Daybell, and especially Lori, to get what they want. The sad part about this is knowing that a man could be so stupid. And I know who you know who I'm talking about, and that's Chad Daybell. What was he thinking. Right now, we're finding out that Tammy Daybell just now received her tombstone, where his wife was possibly murdered. I say this because we know her body was exhumed, and they don't do that just for a picnic, right? This is something has to really point to solid belief that something wasn't right with the way that she passed away. And I remember reading her Facebook post the first time when she mentioned that there was a guy with a paintball gun that pointed the gun at her and pulled the trigger, but nothing was coming out. So it makes you wonder, you know, was it some type of gun where you can shoot things other than bullets out of it, or was it a real gun? We really don't know. But most likely, if Tammy's like me, you probably couldn't tell a real gun from something else anyways. But what's concerning is why would, you know, somebody have something like that, pull the trigger? Was it something to scare her or threaten her, just to play with her life? Did Chad Daybell know about this? And what did he do afterwards? Those are the things that I'm trying to find out. How did Chad Daybell react to this? Because we see where Tammy writes something. Now, Chad Daybell writes 24/7. He's all about writing about himself, including Tammy's obituary. It's her that died, but if you go through her obituary, you'll see Chad likes to put his life into that obituary. I don't think he really realizes what a selfish prick he is. Sorry, Chad, if you're listening, but that's the truth. He manages to put his life into her obituary. But anyways, back to the gun. I mean, was there something in there? Was there poison that he could have shot out? I keep thinking something like that. We don't really have enough information to even guess. But those are the things that go through your mind. I mean, you can't not speculate. You can't. It's just something we all naturally do when you don't have the answers. We know it was about 9 or 10 days later, Tammy passes away. She goes to sleep that night and never wakes up. We know that they exhumed her body, and we know that they are doing an autopsy, and we know they had those results back by now. So we hear that there's a possible chance that Lori and Chad both are facing murder charges. Of course, we hear that that might be Charles or it might be Tammy. We don't know. I'm thinking there's going to be two. Does Chad want to be attached to Charles as well? Because he's going to be if that happens. If they can link just enough of him in her life during that time, there's a possibility that he too will be a person of interest. But right now, they are both persons of interest, definitely for Tammy Daybell. And how is Chad going to handle this? Is he going to go ahead and chance the fact that he's going to jail for life, or even, I don't know their state if they have the death penalty. Somebody can share that below. It doesn't matter. Life behind bars. No longer free to spend time with your family, write your books, to speak at the Preparing the People events. No more of that. Because he chose lust over life. I know a lot of us say, oh my gosh, would I do something like that? No, I would never do anything like that. And what makes it harder for me to believe, I don't know about you guys, but this is a man of God, right? He's trying to teach us how to become people of God, people who are good, who do things for the people around us and our communities. But here he is selling out to lust and money. That's what it appears to be. What do you guys think? This makes you wonder, was this guy ever really a man of God? Was he always in this for what he can get out of it? Because this is what he knows. This is what he grew up knowing. He's good at it. He understands this. We know this because other things about his life is he didn't like to hold a job too long. He was so obsessed with his beliefs. I got to be careful not to say LDS because I don't want to really connect them to it. He's a subunit of the LDS trying to create his own world. Just like Jason Mow. I mean, Jason Mow has this, I'm going to go over that. That's interesting in itself. Let's talk about, Mike, guys, these books that Chad Daybell and Jason Mow write. They write fictional books that they try to make people believe is also nonfiction, if that makes sense. Sorry, guys, for the environmental changes. So, who is Jason Mow? So, Jason Mow is in Preparing the People, which is that religious group that Chad and Lori are involved in, as well as Melanie Gibb. He's the owner of Ethos Productions. He's an author of many other religious books out there that are basically fiction. He's a motivational speaker, a spokesperson, a life coach, a mentor, and trainer. So immediately, most people that are like this, they're about themselves and they think that they can see better than everyone else. In most cases. He's also a certified police officer for 17 years. This is on his resume. He says he's patrol operations, SWAT, gang detective, narcotics detective, street crimes detective, instructor, firearms, defense tactics, tactical patrol, and tactical driving. So he says he's a U.S. Department of State International Narcotics and Law Enforcement. He's in that program, and a civilian contractor. Now that's really important, guys. Civilian contractor. This means you can hire him to do things. This is very interesting to me because there's times in this case where you see Alex Cox is seen, but what worries me is he another loony like these guys? Because he does kind of favor Alex. It just, maybe it's coincidence, but you can't help but look. I'm sorry, Jason, if you're listening, but you just can't help it. Civilian contractor is what lit that light in my head. But then again, Lori could have used his know-how to her advantage, see? And he not know it. So we don't know exactly what happened, but we know that Lori was using Jason Mow in some way. Also, I want to talk about the books that he and Chad write, because I find them a little concerning, especially Jason Mow's books. And I'll show you one of his clip of him speaking as well. He's pretty good at it. Now, we hear there's several reasons that when he worked for the Chandler Police Department in Arizona that he was involved in, but not certain if the other is true. But there's a thing where he might have been involved with a guy that pulled over a woman just to ask her on a date. Anyways, he ended up resigning August of 2006. And according to this information I have, it says he resigned before an international affairs investigation could be conducted into this due to his substandard performance, as well as writing sloppy reports. Now, most cops don't get fired for these types of things, so I'm thinking there must be something else to it. With the in one of the reports, like I said, it mentions his name along with this other officer that is, well, he's being suspended because he used his police uniform, his authority, to pull a woman over just to ask her out. Now they're saying that Mow moved to Phoenix PD, where he worked until about July of 2017 when he went on disability and retirement. I'm not going to mention his first wife. His second marriage was in 2016. And he has written a book that is titled The End of Days. So this novel is called The War Chapters. These books were published by Chad Daybell's publishing company. Now here's the problem. Both he and Chad describe their books as scriptural stories. Inside these stories is basically a treasure chest of details from his own experiences of conflict, war, his character, just a lot in his life that he adds into these books, and he puts them into characters. And so you have this civilian contractor that worked for the government with all this background, writing war books in the name of religion. Okay, so in these books that are meant to be spiritual, the author Jason Mow uses his experience in military to animate the war chapters in the Book of Mormon, titled The Hero Rises. Moroni, which is the angel that I've mentioned multiple times, that come to Joseph Smith, the founder of this religion, is mentioned here. He says Moroni in the Battle for Amani is the first novel in the War Chapter series. It is a fictional work that offers fast-moving experience and unique perspectives of this type of writing. So Moroni is basically like a soldier who, when he's young, he's prepared to lead an army. So this is very interesting. How he come up with this was when he was in the military, stationed in Afghanistan. He began these war chapters from his mind after a rocket attack on his base. So you can tell he's deeply disturbed, because he said that he turned to the scriptures and found comfort in reading about the experience of Captain Moroni. So he mentions that in these books, or other people have even read them and said that these are very vivid pictures that inspire youth and adults to be courageous and obedient to the Lord. Even though there's no sexual content in these books, there is an insane amount of vivid attacks and this sort of thing. These books that are fictionalized drama, they jump the story, which makes it difficult to follow according to some reviews. So even though there's no sexual content or swearing, like I mentioned, there is a descriptive war violence, including scalping, beheading, and death by sword. You can also add in arrows, hands, and javelins. One review says that Mow's experience in the military is evident as the war scenes are very lifelike. So this is, to me, scary. A very scary combination of war, violence, and religion. I think that's an important background that people need to know. That this guy is preparing the people and using violent books to get a message of spiritual guidance out to the youth, as well as the adults, right? Whereas Chad Daybell goes to a little bit different route. Basically the same thing, just without the violence. He uses visions and fortune telling mixed with fictional characters that are based on his people, like his daughter, as well as characters from the Mormon teachings. So both of these guys are connected to the doomsday, what they call cult following, whatever word you want to use. But I haven't seen any of these names on the list where the church has disconnected from any of them. I want to say that Chad is more, his books are focused more on like gathering people for the end times. Now Chad believes that, as well as Lori, that Jesus Christ is coming this summer, and so they should be gathering the 144,000 to prepare for his coming. This includes talks about camps such as the White Camps, the New Jerusalem, Zion. I believe the New Jerusalem, I haven't had a chance to really go and understand this completely. It's so much information. was supposed to be in Missouri and at one point Salt Lake City. They even compare the river there to the river in Jerusalem. And so this is where some of the things come in. We wonder if the kids are still alive and maybe at some sort of camp. If that was the case, you would think that either Jason Mow or Melanie Gibb would come forward and help the world out to know that these kids are at least okay. And that hasn't happened, and so this raises eyebrows. Now, I have to end this shortly because I can only record so much. And my last thing I would like to talk about is the fact that Tammy Daybell finally has a tombstone. And guys, excuse the background noise. So it's been 6 months and finally a tombstone has been placed at where Tammy was laid to rest. This is $430,000 later that she finally received that headstone. Daybell, who inherited a crap load of money off her insurance, why did it take him so long to finally place that headstone there? In my opinion, it just goes to show you where Chad Daybell's priorities are. He has focused more on Lori, his new wife, than he has mourning the 29-year marriage that bore him support, children, and love. In my opinion, nothing says guilty more than this. Well, unless you count the wedding ring Lori purchased days before Tammy died. So this message sent is cold. A really simple word sums it up. It certainly doesn't add hope for the children being found alive and well. One can only hope this group of investigators are determined enough to make up for the lost time. Not to mention, this come from the neglect of the first bunch of investigators and officers who neglected the serious accusations brought to their attention, as well as the broken court systems that have neglected more cases in these days than help. You know, I just really can't imagine what looking in the mirror says for Chad. We're quite certain that we know what Lori sees. We also know what we see when we look in the mirror, and it is that our hope for these children to be alive and well are slipping away. All I know is every day that goes by, it just gets harder. It's harder to believe that the children are okay. One thing I do know, that karma is not sweet. It's not nice. But it does bring justice. And as long as people who witness or understand what's going on don't come forward and speak, their karma is building up. While Lori smirks, wear lipstick, trying to be impressive for the camera, we are losing more and more time because she is so confident in her own beliefs that she overlooks the safety of her own children. I just hope that something comes out really quickly. If the children are okay, just give us a glimpse that they are okay. Especially people of God know that this is not the way that you act. Anyways, guys, I'm still working on this timeline. I've got it pretty much full. I'll just keep adding to it. I'm going to go ahead and work on that sometime today and tomorrow and continue that timeline for you. I think you're going to find it quite interesting. So let's wish them kids some luck to come home safe. Share this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget, guys, I do have a Patreon. Please, if you can, help me out. And I love you guys, of course, and I appreciate you watching. And I'll see you guys soon.